Today, I want to share a wholeness message in the small day-to-day struggles that we might have in the mundane activities of just getting through each day as a parent, as a working parent. And whether it's the laundry, the meals, the chauffeuring, the academics, the emotions, the social stuff. I've been in it in third and fourth grade. It's only been 2 or so months into the school year, and it's just been a rougher start to the season. And so I want to share with you a wholeness message around that. And when I say wholeness, I mean whether it's big or small, whether it's amazing things or hard things, we are always on a journey of I want to inspire to always be on a journey of how do I find wholeness in this moment? How do I find a sense of completeness and peace in this moment? How do I find wisdom and just confirmation that I'm doing the right thing and that I am making the right decisions for my children, that I'm making the right decisions for myself, for our family's future, for our community in this moment. So I think in the day-to-day small things in life, that's where we can get triggered the most. And so today's wholeness message, I want to share a little story on that. And then what I want to do differently this time is actually share how I'm regulating myself and how I'm managing that stress or that difficulty through scripture. And I'm going to share with you one verse. So here we go. My son, who's 10, he's in fourth grade. He had just a series of things happen in the last few months. He had an ankle injury that led to a lot of ibuprofen, and it was a sports injury. They call it Seaver's disease. It's actually when your kid is doing a major activity like a sports while a growth spurt is happening and you hurt either your knee or your ankle, like an injury, like the growth plate or something gets off track. Anyway, that was very painful for a little while. And we learned that he actually has a big GI sensitivity to ibuprofen. And so that was a huge sort of just painful few weeks. Then a few weeks into school, he got strep throat, which also then manifested in throat headache pain, actually not throat pain, headache pain and stomach pain, and which I didn't know because I was always expecting, throat pain when it comes to strep throat. So that was another week out of school, and just in general, he's also a high feeling kid, where if he does have an ailment of any sort, he feels it deeply. And so getting back to school and pushing through that discomfort is not easy for him. And so, when those things happen, I think every parent knows, then your whole day, your week, everything's sort of thrown off track. Is it on you? Is it on your spouse? And it's getting on the same page, and it just sort of throws a lot of us into chaos. Our sleep was thrown out of whack. And so that was one event. Also, my daughter is also second grade, and socially, I thought this would start in middle school, but socially, in second grade, really, she's been saying it since kindergarten, I feel. But just not feeling a sense of belonging at school, and she feels like she hasn't met her friends yet. And those are really, really big emotions. My son tends to express emotions physically, whereas my daughter expresses emotions verbally and with words and language. And so I wonder where they get that from. So the struggle in that moment is when you're in the moment and you get that trigger and you're in that inside out thinking, it's so easy just to go to a place of Jackson, you're fine, you're feeling fine, or fight through the pain, or we can't miss another day of school. And this is like your 10th day of school that you've missed so far this school year. Or you say to your daughter, Aria, are you really making an effort? Are you, you just immediately can just start doubting them, and you just can easily get into this cycle and make assumptions. And, you don't want fragile kids. You want to toughen your kids up. And I think that's always the hardest balance of any parent, is finding that balance of love and hearing and believing and seeing them with structure and discipline and that pull. But in that moment, we can be reactionary. We can be reactionary versus reflective and then curious and approach these events with a posture of more softness or of more strategy and really being more intentional about how we respond in those moments. So usually what happens is for a period of time, I'm in the unconscious mind. So that's the unconscious mind, is we are reactionary, we are emotional, we are defensive, we are making assumptions. And that is when the moment, like anything, I coach my clients and I talk about the T and the R, and in an acronym I say WATR, WATR, which is who you are. It is the actions you take and the affirmations of who you are, knowing your triggers and like what's going to trigger you and put you in a downward spiral, and how do you regulate. So it's the T and the R. So when I get triggered in those moments, I then go to, as soon as, sometimes it takes 1 minute, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes hours. I need to regulate. What's my regulator tool? And for me, it is now a practice of going to, yes, our whole self-leadership tools, but really verses in the Bible, verses like, for me as a person of faith, I'm just sharing with you, this is an example of how I am leveraging now, even more so than ever, verses as spiritual tools and weapons to fight against these triggers, and then what becomes thoughts and thought patterns, and then eventually thought beliefs. And all of a sudden I'm believing that something is true when that was just an unconscious journey of an emotional reaction, cognitive reaction to things. So the verse that I have been rooting myself and that I'm practicing this week and working on memorizing and working on practicing and then embodying. So there is something, where there's the repetitive power of the more you just take something in, and whether you're reading it, whether you're speaking it out loud, then it starts to really rewire and reprogram you. And so this verse is Thessalonians 5:16-18. And it's 3 different parts. So rejoice always. So that is like, even in the moments of hardship or something that is uncomfortable, is to always, or maybe it's stress is the emotion you're in, is to always then find good, find joy, find gladness in that moment, find the beauty in that moment, and then start to try to feel that joy. Now, that's a hard thing to do, because it's like, oh, like, he really needs to go to school, and, how do I find joy in this moment? So then I basically, in order to then exercise that and to really practice that, what I do is then the second part of the verse is pray continually. So rejoice always, pray continually. So for me, that looks like, because it's one thing to say it and to think it, but then I need to feel it. I need to feel that joy. I need to feel the gladness. I need to feel the elation or the happiness, or, or that higher vibration emotion. And so I just start talking to God. So God, I know this is hard, and I'm coming to you right now, and I need your grace and I need your help. And then it just starts becoming this conversation with God, and I start listening to God. And so the tool, then the way that God in this week, because this is an event that's happened again this week, is God says, and I find that joy and I find that gladness in it, which is that my son is going to be in college one day, or he's going to be at sleepaway camp, or he's going to be a 25-year-old adult in the world with a girlfriend and friends and a busy job, and I'm not going to get to see him very often. And so assume it's been 12 days that he's missed school since the beginning of school, the 4th grade. But even if he's missed 12 days, then that's 12 days that I've gotten to get an extra day with him in the household, that I've gotten to share the room with him. And we do eventually play, board games, or I snuggle with him. I get some extra snuggles in, or extra kisses in, or extra conversation in when he is home and not feeling good. And so that is then in the praying continuously, God will speak to me if I'm listening to what he's saying to me as my healthy parent mentoring me in this moment. Claudia, this is what I want you to find in this hard moment. Find this gem, this gold, this gift, and this blessing in this hard moment. And find the good that's going to come out of this moment. And so all of a sudden, so again, rejoice always. All right, I'm looking for what to rejoice in. I'm not finding it. But then when I pray continually and I'm in the conversation with God about it, then all of a sudden that cortisol release is like, it starts minimizing, and I start replacing it with serotonin. I start replacing it with that oxytocin. So when I am hugging him, that oxytocin is coming back into my body, and I'm listening to my Father just sort of wash me over with the blessings of this moment. And then the third part of this verse, Thessalonians 5, 16, 18, is then it says, give thanks in all circumstances. Like, give thanks in all circumstances. And then I feel this tremendous gratitude for, gosh, my son is healthy and he is home with me. And then, of course, I look at the atrocities of what's happening across the street in our neighborhoods to what's happening around the world. And I think, gosh, this is just first world problems. This is just privileged problems. And so it is this, and then I find other things. I go to stories of people, who have tremendous success, who came from poverty and didn't even have access to an education or a safe education, and look how they turned out, because that then diffuses my concerns around, oh my gosh, is he going to fall behind in school, and am I a bad parent because I'm enabling something that he should be doing and that he's not, and do I need to be a tougher parent? And so in the grand scheme of things, when we all look back at our childhood, or there's so many things that we just wish we were more chill about, or maybe there's things we're more tough about, but we're just more intentional about. But that is, again, the three parts. Rejoice always is when you're in that hard moment, when you're in that trigger, that T for the trigger is, okay, I know my body, it's taken over, the stress is taken over my body, and I'm triggered right now. I'm in a pattern of being triggered. Then how do I regulate myself? What is the tool? If I'm thirsty, I'm going to grab a glass of water. So what is the regulator that I'm going to grab? And so there's hundreds, if not thousands, of tools in my whole self leadership program that are visuals, or it's mantras, or it's thoughts, patterns that we go to. But verses, like the way that I build all of these it's all sourced from verses. And so Thessalonians 5, 16 to 18, rejoice always. Okay, I'm thinking it. Pray continually. Start praying to God. Then listen and let God speak to you, and then feel it. We got to feel it in order to actually make that shift. Feel it. Okay, it's not just thinking about it. Then the thoughts then create feeling and emotion. Then I'm starting to feel good. Then my parasympathetic nervous system is back in effect, which is the calm nervous system. And I'm out of the fight, flight, freeze reaction. And I'm back into my prefrontal cortex of rational thinking. And so then it's like, okay, then I can pray continually, and then I can give thanks in all circumstances. Then I can start feeling the blessing, feeling the gratitude and the gift that's coming out of it, and let it wash over me. So my friends, that is my wholeness message for you today. And I hope this speaks to somebody out there who needs this message.